Hey.
Feels live, we're live.
Hey.
Do you want to go ahead and start?
Absolutely. Welcome one and all to the February 10th Complete Streets Commission meeting. This is a teleconference meeting with Complete Streets Commission members, city staff, and members of the public participating remotely to ensure proper social distancing in this federal, state, and local emergency. Moving on to roll call, I would like to introduce Complete Streets Commission members and staff. I am Chair Adina Levin. Commissioners present include Katie Baruzzi, Jackie Cebrian, John Cromie, Patrice Espinosa, Bill Kirsch, and Mike Meyer. Lydia Lee is on her way and is expected to be here soon. Staff present include Kevin Chen and Patrick Palmer. Patrick, can you please provide instructions to the Complete Streets Commission and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed from here?
Yes, thank you, Chair Levin and members of the Complete Streets Commission. Welcome everyone to the February 10th Complete Streets Commission meeting, and thank you for attending. At this time, we ask that the members of the commission please remain on screen for the duration of the meeting. You will control your own webcams and microphones. Staff will engage webcams and microphones to make presentations and respond to the members of the commission. For members of the public who are in attendance and wish to provide public comment, after the chair calls for public comment on the item you wish to speak on, please engage the raised hand feature. I will then have the ability to open your microphone and you can provide your public comment to the Complete Streets Commission. If you do not have a working microphone, please type your comment into the chat feature and staff will read it out loud. That concludes the instructions and I return the meeting to the chair.
All right, thank you very much. We will now move on to item C, reports and announcements, in which staff and commission members may communicate general items of interest regarding matters within the jurisdiction of the commission. No discussion or action can occur on any of the presented items. Kevin, do you have any reports and or announcements?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a few reports and announcements. I wanted to start off with City Council actions. As many of you know, the City Council have taken quite a few actions since the last time we met. So I'm going to go ahead and identify them and a short summary of each. First and foremost, they have approved the Sharon Road Sidewalk project. I know many of you have been paying attention to the project, and glad to report that the City Council had approved the project with the option to proceed with a 6-inch concrete sidewalk option. So this is the raised sidewalk with parking essentially eliminated for the entire for 24/7. And so the next phase of that project is to continue the design. We have the conceptual design, but we do need to move forward with a bid package. So with the goal of finishing the design within the next few months, and then start the construction, hopefully complete the construction in anticipation for the fall semester of this year. So very exciting news, and looking forward for the completion of that project. The second item quickly is that the City Council also approved the pool design for the Menlo Park Community Campus project. So as you know, a month ago or so, the City Council approved the overall project with pending item being the pool. And luckily, the City Council were able to have a special meeting and approve the pool design. So now the entire project can continue to move forward. So another great news right there. Also, the highly anticipated goal-setting workshop was held back on Saturday, January 30th. It was quite a long meeting. I'm sure many of you virtually attended the meeting, so just quickly go over the summary. Essentially, the workshop consists of discussing some of the work plan projects that the City Council wants to see. In terms of the transportation, we definitely had a few key highlighted items. One of them is a desire to see more traffic calming projects. and those include Middle Avenue, which many of you are aware of, also Willow Row, so the city control portion of Willow Row. Also recently brought to our attention the Valparaiso Avenue, where unfortunately there was an incident that had happened. This was Valparaiso between Hallmark Circle and Outshoot Avenue. So those were three projects that the City Council had identified wanting traffic calming projects to move forward. Also, Caltrans Quiet Zone was brought up. And of course, another citywide document was the housing element was also brought up, which transportation obviously would play a role in the development of it as well. So what does that all mean? Basically, at the next City Council meeting, which is scheduled to be on Tuesday, February 23rd, the City Council will then reconvene and essentially discuss the prioritization of these projects, and hopefully at the end of the day, adopt a 2021 work plan that we can move forward with. So with that, I will conclude my reports and announcements. Thank you.
Okay, and I will add to that in public comment, I did report an item that this commission had agreed that it wanted to have in its work plan, which was to work with the Environmental Quality Commission in supporting elements of the Climate Action Plan to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and in particular to reduce vehicle miles traveled, and an interest in helping the City Council and providing advice on projects that could help achieve those climate goals. And that is something that, since this body had decided that it wanted to do, I reported that that was a thing that we had agreed.
I have a question for Kevin. Kevin, on Sharon Road, there was some discussion about narrowing the travel lanes for cars. Do you know what the status of those discussions are?
Yeah, no, definitely. So in addition to the overall concept of the project, there were a couple elements that were brought up. One of them was the potential to reduce the travel lane. So all of that will be incorporated into the final design that is hopefully we can commence within the next few weeks or so. But all of that will be evaluated once we actually sit down and do the civil engineering design portion. But we definitely recognize that the City Council wants us to look at it, and other elements as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions or contributions from commissioners on this item? Katie has a hand.
This is just a reports and announcements question. I noticed that we are down a commissioner, and there was a reference, Kevin, in your email to a public email that he'd sent, but I didn't ever see it, and I just didn't know. It was a surprising development, and I was wondering, maybe other people are surprised, and if there's anything public that you can report, that would be helpful. Thanks.
I'm going to go ahead and apologize. Are you referring to ex-Commissioner Wyatt or?
Yes, ex-Commissioner Wyatt. Sorry. Did
Right.
everybody else know but me? I just did, like, maybe this was announced a month ago, and because that was the meeting I had to miss.
Oh, that was the first I heard of it, was that email.
Right. Yeah. No, it was definitely a very last minute development as well. So due to, I want to honor the privacy of ex-Commissioner Wyatt, I'm not going to go ahead and disclose the reason for leaving the commission, but it was a personal reason for leaving the commission. Yes.
Following up, so does City Council need to decide whether they will fill that position sooner, or is it close enough to the next time when we typically fill commission spots that we might just do it all at the same time?
Yeah, it will. My brief conversation with the city clerk is that we intend to fill that position during the annual appointment period, since it's coming up soon. Yes.
All right, and and not seeing any more hands from Commissioners, are there any members of the public that have comments on item C, which I am not seeing any, although I do see, would like to acknowledge Councilmember Taylor as the liaison to this commission is here in our virtual audience. So with that, I want to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is public comment, where under public comment, the public may address the Complete Streets Commission on any subject not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the commission once under general public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. Please clearly state your name and address or political jurisdiction in which you live. The commission cannot act on items not listed on the agenda, and therefore the commission cannot respond to non-agendized items brought up under public comment other than to provide general information. Patrick, do we have any public comment?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to repeat for any members of the public who may have just joined us, if you do wish to provide public comment, please engage the raised hand feature. I will then be able to open your microphone and you can provide your public comment to the commission. And at this time, it does not look like we have a public comment.
Okay, well, then we will move on to the regular business in which the commission considers recommendations on policy matters or administrative actions that require commission approval. So the first item is E1 to approve the Complete Streets Commission regular meeting minutes of January 13th, 2021. Are there any comments on the minutes? Okay, I am not seeing any, although I do see that Commissioner Lee is now present. Welcome, Commissioner Lee. So with that, are there any public comments on the minutes of January 13th? I am not seeing any. So therefore, do I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I second the motion.
Okay, so can staff do a roll call vote?
Great, thank you. If the commissioner can hold up your hand if you intend to vote yes to approving the minute, and Commissioner Baruzzi is abstain. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we will now move on to receive on item E2 a presentation on ongoing regional pedestrian and bicycle plans and proposed facilities within the city of Menlo Park. Kevin Chen will present this item. Senior Transportation Engineer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just if you can bear with me for a minute as I pull up the presentation. Sorry about that. Probably having a bit of a technical difficulty here.
Okay.
There we go.
Well, as long as there are no cat Zoom backgrounds, you're, I think, ahead of the game for the rest of us.
No cat backgrounds here. Only some regional document backgrounds. Here we go. Awesome. Great. If I can have just a quick confirmation that everyone can see my screen. It's currently the page. Okay, awesome, great, thank you very much. So again, thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Kevin Chen, Senior Transportation Engineer with the City of Menlo Park. I thought I'd take today's as an opportunity to introduce a couple regional documents. As many of you know, the city obviously place a heavy focus for projects within the city, but obviously being within the peninsula and very near to the Dumbarton Bridge, obviously there's a lot of regional interest as well. And as many of the regional agencies starting to update or develop their pedestrian and bicycle plans, I thought I would take this opportunity to share specifically 2 documents that the county is currently either working on or is very, very close to being implemented, or moving on to the next phase, which is implementation or assessment. I'm sorry, not assessment. So the first one that I wanted to introduce here is the San Mateo County Bike and Pedestrian Plan. Toward the end of last year, the county started to solicit feedback for the preparation of this plan. And as it currently stands, there is a draft plan that has been released by the county for public consumption and provide feedback. And I do wanted to point out that this is a plan that really focuses on county and regional network. Again, due to the nature of the CCAC being the part of the county, that is essentially the backbone and the emphasis for this document. So what does that mean in terms of for the city of Menlo Park? Obviously, like I mentioned before, being part of a city within the peninsula, we do play a big role in terms of the connectivity for the region. Here is a quick highlight of what the county or the CCAC consider to be the backbone of the county network. Of course, to the top, we have the Bay Trail, and then probably more familiar to the group right here, definitely Middlefield. El Camino Real is another one that I think is dear to many of your heart there. And here, really what I wanted to highlight is that many of the networks here, they are while in Menlo Park, and they do have some sort of existing facilities, for example, Bay Row or Middlefield Row. The county does still believe that there's an opportunity to improve those networks. And as a result of that, that's why they're being highlighted here. I also wanted to kind of quickly just point to Elena, the connection from Willow up to Laurel, and then to Valparaiso and Elena. You might have find that route a little bit familiar, and that's because that is the interim regional network that the city of Menlo Park and 3 other agencies have identified as the interim, while a more permanent regional feature is being studied and hopefully identified for the future. So one other thing besides just the network itself, I also want to highlight how the CCAC is going to be scoring the projects. Obviously, with to many of you guys that is following the transportation master plan process, or even just our standard city council work plan, there's always got to be a way to prioritize projects, and CCAC is no different. And this is essentially their way of scoring each of the projects and put a ranking to all the projects that the county had identified. So here, as you can see, we have safety and comfort being the top, which if a project is identified to benefit safety and comfort, you score 4 points. And of course, for each project, the same process would be the county would gone through and do that for each project. So what does that mean in terms of the projects that impact Menlo Park? Well, as I mentioned before, even though many of the facilities or the quote unquote backbone facilities have some sort of pedestrian and bicycle facilities on there, the county still sees there's a desire to improve. For one, if there's no facility, we should put some facility on there. And then 2, if there is a facility already on there, is an opportunity to improve it. So as I mentioned before, using the scoring criteria that I had identified in the previous page, here are some of the key or more known projects and how they would score. El Camino definitely got scored pretty high. It's got a high priority. The ranking is low, medium, and high. Marsh being a Caltrans facility, as well as spans over Atherton and Menlo Park, also got scored high. I also kind of want to just quickly highlight Middle Avenue. While it did score a medium, as many of you know, our city council has a very strong interest in seeing some improvements to Middle Avenue, specifically regarding traffic calming and speed reduction. So while it is being scored as a medium, it is a priority in our city, and it is something that staff intend to move forward with in the near future as well. So finally, just a quick next step for the plan, and one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this to the Commission's attention is that, as I mentioned earlier, the draft plan is currently available for viewing by the public online, and here is the website. And they are accepting comments by March 10th of 2021. And in this case, all the comments would be focusing on the prioritization of those projects. So as I mentioned, they have a scoring system. And if any of the commissioners are felt like the scoring might not quite to the scale that you had hoped, this would be now a good opportunity for the commissioners to voice your opinion and provide those comments individually to the website. And of course, once the CCAC has a chance to incorporate the comments, there will be a final plan for adoption, hopefully toward the end, later on this year. So that was basically the county's plan, which, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, focuses on the backbone of the county, for looking at how to traverse people from one city to the other. The county also has another active transportation plan that focuses on unincorporated areas. And as many of you know, City of Menlo Park, we do have a couple of unincorporated areas within our city boundary. So that's another reason why I wanted to kind of highlight this plan. I will say this plan, the final plan went to their board for adoption last night. Unfortunately, I don't have what the outcome of the meeting yet, but I'll make sure to share that with the commission as soon as I have it. Still, it's good to highlight the projects that have been identified. So as I mentioned earlier, two key areas that could be of interest to the commission here. One is in the Menlo Oaks, and the other one is in West Menlo Park. I know a couple that I may wanted to highlight would be the Coleman Avenue, where the county is currently proposing a bicycle boulevard. And our TMA, our Transportation Master Plan, identify our section of Coleman as well to hopefully have a bike lane facility. So obviously there will be some coordination that needs to happen when that project takes place. If you are more in the West Menlo area, Santa Cruz Avenue, Outshoot, Alameda de las Pogas. Here's just a quick snapshot of some of the projects that they're proposing. Happy to report that I am aware that the county is interested in extending the bike lane for on Santa Cruz from Sand Hill all the way to AV as it's identified. That's a project that the city has been paying very close attention to, and as I mentioned earlier, if there's any update to that project, I'll make sure to alert the commission. Another area that might be of interest to some of the commissioners, although it's technically outside of our city boundary, would be in the North Fair Oaks area. So this is the part where it's next to marsh. And as many of you know, that there's a desire for marsh to have some bicycle improvements. So as a result of that, I wanted to make sure I highlight this section so that the commission, anyone that might be interested, will know that that area is currently being evaluated as well. Okay, so basically the next step for this particular document, like I mentioned, the website is available in front of you. So if for any of you that's interested in diving in deeper within the document, you can certainly do so. The document, assuming if the final plan got adopted, the next step for the county is to do some feasibility assessments of projects. Basically what that means is some of the projects that have been identified might require parking removal or a more heavy coordination with neighboring agencies or the general public. So that is all going to be part of the feasibility assessment that the county will be conducting next. And of course, there will be, once a project has been identified to move forward with the planning phase, there will definitely be coordinations between agencies and members of the public as well. Similar to a project that we would do in the city of Menlo Park. So with that, I will go ahead and conclude my presentation. Like I mentioned a little earlier, this is strictly a informational item. I just wanted to make sure that the commission is well aware of what the counties are planning to do, how those plans could potentially impact the projects that we have going on within the city. And at this point, happy to answer any questions that you might have.
So fellow commissioners, does anyone have any questions or comments? I see that Commissioner Kirsch has a hand.
Kevin, thank you. The El Camino stretch, I think it was 1.05 miles. I'm assuming that's El Camino within the Menlo Park border.
That is correct. The length that is being identified here only identify as City of Menlo Park stretches.
And what are they? So what body is it that is thinking about this? Because CCAG, they don't have any teeth, right? It's got to be, is this Caltrans that's would consider bike and pedestrian infrastructure on El Camino?
Right. Yeah. So
our city might do.
Right. That's a great question. And really, when it comes to regional plans, such as the ones that I've identified, obviously the county plays a major role in terms of bringing those projects to our attention, meaning the City of Menlo Park's attention, but also to be able to do those projects as well. I will say that in terms of the document, the adoption of the document has two major purposes. One is it allows cities that wishes to do those projects to apply for grants and use this document as the backbone of identifying what the improvements are and exactly where they rank in terms of priorities. As you know, whenever you have a grant that's available, many cities would go after it, right? And so documents like this would help us enhance our chance of getting the grant, because it is studied by the city. Ideally, we as a city would have a document that support the project. Regionally speaking, there will be a document such as this to support the project. It'll help us score in terms of getting a higher percentage of obtaining that grant that we can go after. For CCAG, obviously they'll use this plan to assess their programs. So they, as you know, CCAG has many funding opportunities and that they can go after as well. So they would be also using this document to go after those grants. So in a nutshell, apologize that I can't answer you directly, but there are multiple ways that we can definitely highlight this document and its usefulness.
Okay, so the document won't lead to any action. It'll just be potentially a design that will sit there. And then it'll be up to our city, if we want to do something on that corridor, we can point to that document as sort of a foundation for what we want to do and access grants to put in infrastructure on El Camino. It is still
Right.
the city
For,
to do.
for us, that it will serve that purpose, but it doesn't stop the CCAG if they have any an opportunity or the resources to do so, to reach out to agencies and say, hey, City of Menlo Parks, Town of Atherton, we have this project that has been identified in the plan, and CCAG has the resources to move this project forward. Would the two agencies like to be a stakeholder in this project? Which then we, in response, we will most likely say, we'll have to assess our own resources to see if we can dedicate and allocate some resources to help out as a stakeholder. But that I could potentially see how the CCAG could use that document as well.
Okay, and will the website that you reference, will that be in the minutes for tonight's meeting? We can access that website.
Absolutely. This entire presentation would be attached as an attachment to the minute.
Okay, thank you.
All right, excellent. So thank you. So I see that Commissioner Bruzy has a hand.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. I think I got a little bit of a gist of it from some of the questions Bill was asking, but I'm just curious, sort of on a day-to-day perspective, Kevin, how the staff across the different agencies work together. So when you, like, how involved have you all been with the CCAG planning or the unincorporated county planning? And, are there ways that we can support you? What's a good role for the commissioners individually or collectively to play in this?
Right. Yeah. No, that's a very, very good question right there. From a staff level, obviously, the City of Menlo Park staff and the county staff, we have been coordinating internally about this project. From our end, we just want to make sure that the projects that they have identified, at least from a high level standpoint, fits within our own desire and our own work plan. City of Menlo Park, we have our transportation master plan. The city council obviously has their work plan as well that identifies which ones are priorities to them. So for us, from a staff level, we want to make sure that the projects that are being recommended by these regional plans are consistent with our document. Of course, at a high level, because regional plans, it's very hard to go into the design level, unfortunately. Same with any plans. So I would say from a staff level, we're definitely coordinating with their staff. They will reach out to us, make sure that we're comfortable with the projects that they're recommending. We will review them and provide our comments, etc. For the commission, I would say that one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this to your attention, one is obviously just for you to know that the counties are preparing these plans. But two is also for individuals that want to dive into these documents a little bit further and want to provide those comments, that you have the opportunity to do so. For the commission, unfortunately, we don't have the power as a commission to provide a cohesive set of comments unless we want to do it through the city council. And in the case of the CCAG document, the timing just wouldn't work out. So in this case, I do want to bring this to your attention, that if you want to provide any additional comments, that you can do so as an individual.
All right. Do any more commissioners have comments or questions? All right, I am not seeing any more hands using the hand feature or hand raise. Let me see if there are any members of the public have comments or questions. Also not seeing any. I actually have a couple of questions before we finish this up. So one is thank you very much to staff for bringing this forward. I think it is helpful to bring this forward in a manner that is timely for us to weigh in as individuals, since the resources that are available through the county are helpful to achieve the city's goals. And, this is really complementary to things that we do, for example, on the transportation master plan. So thank you very much for bringing this to us. I guess another thing in terms of the high priority routes and the resolution that this group has taken in terms of wanting to support the climate action plan. The projects that reduce vehicle miles traveled are things that are routes that connect a variety of useful destinations such that people can travel places without having to use a car to do so safely. And there are a good number of routes that are in this county plan and are high priority in rank that seem to have that attribute. So this also seems really complementary to that goal that we have. So I think that that is also good and complementary. Let's see. A question I have about another possibly related initiative is that the Managers Mobility Forum, which was a network of city managers, was working on some kind of a bicycle plan that I'm told was put on hold due to COVID. Does staff have any update on that, how it relates to these other county plans, and whether it will be returning to the best of staff's knowledge?
Great. Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Chair, for that question. That's a excellent segue, actually. So for those that might not be familiar with the manager mobility program that Chair Levin mentioned, this was something that was put together, I believe, a few years, 2 or 3 years ago, or something like that. I might not have the year correct, but basically it consists of 4 public agencies: Redwood City, City of Menlo Park, Palo Alto, and Mountain View. The goal of the document that the Chair Levin mentioned is really assessing if there's an ideal permanent pathway, a bicycle pathway that can serve 4 agencies. And it essentially would be part of a regional connection, a regional network. The study essentially boiled down to 3 potential possibilities. Obviously, El Camino Real being option number 1, seems to be the most direct connection. Option number 2 was Middlefield Row, at least for the stretch within our city of Menlo Park, and Atherton and Redwood City potentially, as well as Palo Alto. And then the third option was essentially a combination of Caltrans right away. As many of you might know, there were previous discussion about potentially using Caltrans right away to install a trail, a walking trail, or a bikeway if the right of way is there, and Caltrans willing to work with agencies on that. So that essentially becomes option number 3. Of course, not throughout the entire 4 agencies. There'll have to be some combination of local streets as well as that option. So those were kind of the primary options that study was studying, and like the chair mentioned, COVID put a stop to that study for a little bit. I am happy to report that the study is continuing. I believe there is a draft report that could be released within the next few months or so. I don't know. I don't have the exact timeline. And that particular document, the release of that document, ideally would have a final recommendation out of the three to be moving forward with. I would say that this is going to be a very high level study. This is a study that really looking at those three options from a high level, right-of-ways, potential impacts to frontages, parkings, etc. Stuff like that would be evaluated, but it probably wouldn't go into some of the engineering that typically would require for a project to be implemented. With that being said, it's another great document that we can reference and highlight whenever that there's a local project or a regional project that is fortunate enough to get some granting opportunities that we can go after. It's another great document that we can pinpoint to and point to and sort of make our case why our project should be selected. So. So thank you, Madam Chair, for bringing that to my attention, and I'll make sure to, whenever that report is released, to make sure to share that with the Commission as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And the last thing I will say about this is that the Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition presented at some recent meetings the result of surveys of bicycle riders in the area, and what they found was a very high priority on routes that are both very safe and direct. So routes like the zigzaggy route through Atherton is, nice for a family ride or a jaunt through tall leafy trees. But if you're trying to get somewhere, the survey showed that people do want direct routes. So it's glad to see that the direct routes are called out in this plan, and would hope that that is the focus of some of our county prioritization and then investment. And that is the opinion that I will express. Any other comments on this topic or comments from members of the public before we move on from this item? I'm not seeing any. So the notes for this item do call for a motion, but it was also identified as an information item. Do we need, are we being asked for any motions on this item? No. Okay.
No, yeah, staff is not looking for any specific motion for this item.
Okay, great. So we can move on to informational items, which are shared with the Commission and staff's effort to provide updates on matters of importance to the Commission. These are not action items, and however, a commissioner, city staff member, or member of the public may request to make a comment or ask a question on any of the informational items. So are there informational items to present to the Commission at this time?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So let me just try to pull up my paper here. Great, awesome, yes. There's a few major project updates that I wanted to bring to the Commission's attention. As many of you know, a while ago, the City Council adopted the citywide speed survey. Within that survey, there were some recommendations to reduce roadway speed. And at the end of that meeting, in addition to adopting that survey, the City Council also asked to reduce some roadways for a few particular roadways. So I'm happy to say that those signs have since been replaced. If you're interested in knowing exactly which street is being impacted, feel free to email staff. I'm not gonna list them one by one, but it's a great effort by our Public Works Department to be able to pull that together and get those signs replaced. Also, not quite from that project, but also a speed limit related item. The city council from that particular item also requests staff to look into establishing citywide 15 miles per hour school zone speed limits. And this would obviously be applied citywide for those schools. So I'm happy to report that it is something that we're currently working on. We're hoping to get the at least the areas established. Hopefully, get those signs identified, and then add or replace signs accordingly. So we're happy that we're making progress, and hopefully we can get those signs on the ground as soon as we can. Another project that I want to bring to your attention, many of you are aware that we have a Belhaven traffic calming plan that has been adopted by the city council about a year and a half ago, and we were able to implement some of the temporary measures since about 6 or 7 months ago. And then those measures include signing and striping and bulb outs that replicate, mimic the action of a bulb out. We also had speed limit signs and what is called a speed limit sign that it shows how fast you're going along Choco. So we're able to get those in. Unfortunately, due to COVID, the original plan was to conduct a post-temporary installation survey to see how effective they are in terms of reducing speed, turning speed, reducing car speeding, and then also just the cut-through traffic in general within the neighborhood. Unfortunately, COVID sort of put that to a holding pattern. However, given that we do not want to continue to have those temporary measures out there, what we would like to move forward with is to conduct a survey to the public, to the neighborhood, to see how they like those temporary measures for the last 6 months or so, if they felt like they were effective, and whether or not they want them to be permanent features. Of course, in order to make bulb outs permanent features, we'll have to put concrete in, take those ballers out, put concrete in. So it will require some design and some time to design those elements. So we wanted to make sure that we get the survey out as soon as we can, so that we have time to do the design prior to the installation later on this year. So staff is going to be putting together that survey and hopefully to be able to share that with the public within the next few weeks or so. So, and with that, I will conclude my updates.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments from commissioners? All right, Commissioner Lee.
Yeah, quick question for Kevin. When you talk about some of the temporary things, I have seen white bollards in different places in Belhaven. Is that what are those meant to sort of stand in for bulb outs? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, you're exactly correct. The bollards that you've seen on the ground, plus it's essentially kind of an island looking that has a separate color. That those in combination represent a bulb out, and the bollards are placed where the new curb would be. So that way it serves two purposes. Obviously, allows the residents to kind of know where they will be going in eventually. They also allow us to be able to see if they have any scratch marks. Typically, if you have a scratch mark, that means maybe it's too tight. So when we go back and do the design of the permanent features, we can take back those feedback and maybe change the design accordingly as well. So those bulb outs are serving those purposes. Those ballers are serving those purposes.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Have those ever been used in other parts of Menlo Park, or have they showed up in Belhaven first? I'm just wondering if that's kind of a standard toolkit that the city is using to mark out temporary bollards. I mean, temporary bulb outs.
Yes. Yes and no. The use of bollards and paint as a temporary measure to replicate a bulb out have been used before, but not those particular type of bulb outs. I believe if you go to in the Willows neighborhood at Middlefield Road and Woodland,
Mhm.
there's another bulb out right there that we have installed a while ago. The ballers at that location are the skinnier ones, the tall and skinnier ones. So they are not as sturdy as the ones that we have been using. I think so far the feedback, at least as far as the ballers themselves are concerned, I think they are proving to be positive. So I would say in the future, those are likely the materials that will be used for future bulb out implementations.
Got it. Thank you for that information. When I've seen them, I just assumed they were permanent because they looked very substantial.
Right.
Yeah.
They look very sturdy.
They do. They look serious. Thanks.
Thank you. I see that Commissioner Abruzzi has a hand.
Yeah, Kevin, more on the Bellhaven traffic calming project. So when you were talking about the how you were not going to be able to, or COVID had disrupted sort of a survey to understand about the effectiveness, is that because of just staffing constraints or because traffic patterns during COVID have been so unusual that you felt that there were things you couldn't really properly establish a pre-post? And wondering too, if there were goals that you had for this installation that are somewhat traffic irrelevant. Like, I mean, if the goal is to slow cars down, maybe it doesn't matter if there were 50 cars instead of 200 cars, because you can still ascertain whether they're faster or slower. And just I love that you're reaching out to the community and you're doing a survey, and I hope that you'll have all kinds of good ways of getting that survey into the community. But I also feel like, in addition to getting qualitative data from people, it's good to have at least some metric of like, oh yeah, this actually works. It doesn't just make people feel safer, like objectively cars are going 3 miles an hour slower on average. And is that something you can still grab if that's important?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and I apologize for kind of skipping that portion of the update as well. Definitely, we're not saying that we're not going to collect any data at all. In fact, there are still data out there that we can collect to measure the effectiveness. For instance, we can count the number of cars that are going through those roadways and their speed. And I would say the survey that we no longer would be fruitful to do would be a maybe origin and destination survey, which we did at prior to those measures went in. Of course, that was before we realized there was going to be a COVID to completely change the plan. But that survey most likely would no longer be needed, but we would certainly be conducting roadway counts, speed, etc., so that we can do a before and after comparison. And as you know, in addition to sort of try to reduce cut through traffic, which was one of the many elements that went into this plan, turning speed, reduction of turning speed as a result of those bulb outs was also another factor. And of course, with bulb outs, then it allows pedestrians to cross at a shorter distance. So hopefully that's another element that we can't quite measure quantitatively, but the installation of a bulb out would be beneficial to those pedestrians as well. So I think there's going to be many elements that we can look into in addition to just sort of the obvious ones that I mentioned as well.
Kevin, can I obnoxiously, while we're mentally in Bellhaven, tell you about something that I keep bumping up against there and wanting to tell you, and then because I'm on a bike in the middle of a ride, I never remember. You guys have these really nice wayfinding signs that get people from the Bay Area back toward, that you wind your way down Hamilton, and then you get some over to the bike bridge and down Ringwood, which are great. But there's this intersection in front of the Boys and Girls Club where there's a big median, and if you're in a car, you can only turn right. The sign tells the bikes to go left. to get to the bike bridge. And that's actually just like totally not legal. Like the way to go do is to become a pedestrian and kind of like walk your bike and then walk your bike in the like between the one place where the median goes. But I
Mhm.
find that sign to be really confusing and a little bit counterproductive probably for good biking behavior. So I
Right.
wanted to just flag that for you when you guys are in Bellhaven and you're thinking about these things, if there's a way to somehow clarify that instruction so that you're not actually accidentally telling people to turn left onto the wrong way.
Yes, yeah, I know exactly which sign you're talking about,
Okay.
and note it. We'll see what we can do to sort of
Awesome.
clarify
Thank you.
that. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Commissioner Kirsch has a hand.
Kevin, regarding reducing speed limits in school zones,
Mhm.
will that be where you adopt the 15-mile-an-hour school zone speed? Will that be a permanent reduction or just parts of the day?
So the 15 miles per hour speed limit school zone, it would be very typical to the ones that we already have. In terms of to answer your question, they mainly focus on pickup, drop off, maybe noon, recess time, etc., where there's a very heavy population of kids walking and biking to and from school. But that sign does not prevent our police officers from enforcing that sign whenever there's a kid around outside of those hours. Typically, you'll see the 15 miles per hour sign, and then right below it, there'll be a sign that says when children are present. So it is somewhat restrictive to when and only if there's a kid around, but it does not necessarily restrict the timing.
Okay.
Police officers have, yeah, if they see the need to cite someone whenever there's a kid around, they have the power to do so.
Okay, so that the speed reduction is only going to be when there's children present.
When children present, right?
Okay, and last question. Would Menlo Atherton High School, which has a long frontage on Middlefield,
Mhm.
would that be included as a school zone for such signs?
Right. So it's currently under evaluation. We'll have to look into that. It is a high school. Typically, we do designate those school zones more for the elementary and the middle schools. I do not believe there is currently one at the Menlo Atherton High School, but it is something that we'll be evaluating to see if it's qualifies.
Yeah, it's just because there's a lot of bicycle activity to and from the school and a lot of pedestrian activity, students, going and leaving school. So it'd be great to have those signs there.
Mhm. Noted. Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Great. Thank you. Any other commissioner comments before we go to members of the public? Seeing none, I do see that Councilmember Taylor has a hand raised, so we'd like to recognize Councilmember Taylor. Councilmember Taylor, are you muted?
Now I am not. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My question is, where do early childhood education facilities fall in the school discussion? There are two on the corner of Chilco and Hamilton. Where do they fit in?
Sure, go ahead. That's a very good question. I believe in some of the areas that we already established zones for instance, in the Bellhaven area, those also impact private childcare facilities. If it's a specific entity, I believe we have done that in the past as well. But that's a very good question that I will go back and make sure to do some research on as well.
I appreciate that, because one thing to keep in mind, pickup drop off is different than it is with an elementary school.
Mhm. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. Are there any other people who would like to speak as members of the public on this item? Not seeing any. We can move on to the next item on the agenda, which is committee and subcommittee reports on any updates from our subcommittee since the last commission meeting, starting with G1 from the Active Transportation Network Subcommittee.
Yes, it's Patrice and I on that committee, and I'm terming out in a couple of months. And I think Patrice is on a couple of other committees. I would propose that we shut down the Active Transportation Subcommittee.
And is that something that
Well,
that Commissioner Espinosa is of the similar opinion?
Yes. We
I'll
spoke about it. We spoke about it earlier. We've been meeting.
Mhm.
Commissioner Kirsch and I have been speaking monthly before these meetings about things that we can work on, and with him terming out, and there already being a new subcommittee around the Transportation Master Plan implementation, we feel like we can retire the Active Transportation Network Committee.
Okay. And is there anyone else here who has a different opinion who would like to revive that subcommittee with different membership who is here? I am not seeing any hands. Okay, so I think that can go into the agenda for a subsequent meeting, as this is not an agendized action at this meeting.
no update.
Okay. So moving on to the Climate Action Plan Subcommittee, I already gave my update, which was the report at City Council goal setting about the recommendation that this body had taken. Commissioner Meyer, anything else on the electric end? Nope. Okay. Moving on to the downtown access and parking, Baruzzi and Espinosa.
No updates. I saw that the council recently punted on the decision about whether or not to reopen traffic on Santa Cruz Avenue. And I think that, yeah, that's gonna come up before council. When is that coming up again, Kevin? They kicked the can maybe a month down the road?
So the program itself is set to expire by end of February. So
Yeah.
I believe technically speaking, after February, the city will open up the roadways again
Okay.
until further action from the city council, of course.
Okay. So moving on to G4, the Multimodal Metrics Subcommittee, which is scheduling a meeting to discuss its topic. So that is our update.
Commissioner Levin, this is my opportunity to tell you to put that meeting on your calendar.
I will need to follow up offline because I
Okay.
have some family related travel that may affect my ability to make the time, which seemed reasonable very recently. So let me follow up with that based on some new personal information I have from the last day or two.
Oh, we also lost a member of this committee, and if anybody, and we had been full, and we are no longer full, and at some point, people might want to think about stepping into this one.
And also the Downtown Access Committee, we also lost a member.
We did.
Okay, if there is anybody who is interested can raise their hand now or contemplate it between now and the next meeting. Okay, so moving on to the multimodal subcommittee, considering things like regional transportation and transportation demand management. So I'll report on a regional item on a project that is located in a nearby community that would affect Menlo Park. So the city of Redwood City is considering a major development at Sequoia Station, which would replace the parking lot dominated shopping center with a new shopping center that was more less that would have parking underground, and then have a large mixed use office and residential development, also including the Safeway and other anchor retail. And the reason why it's relevant to this commission is that that would include and enable the piece of rail infrastructure that would be the single most impactful Caltrain line improvement over the next 20 years. They're talking about using some of the land for a 4-track station, which would allow fast trains to pass slow local trains, and that would allow a significant increase in rail capacity, as well as allow a better, more even schedule that is easier for Caltrain to connect to. City Council had a study session on Monday and seemed to be generally looking favorably, although with some considerations about housing in Redwood City and how to accommodate the housing impacts of an office heavy development. And so that's something that anybody who's interested in higher quality regional transit may wish to pay attention to. That project would also include grade separations of up to 3 streets through downtown Redwood City, enabling greater permeability for walking and bicycling, and is analogous to the grade separation project that we have going on here. So a regional note at our neighbor. Jackie, do you have anything else to add?
No.
Okay. Moving on to G6 from the Safe Routes to School Program Subcommittee. Any updates from the Safe Routes to School?
I have a brief update, which is from I'm still part of the Parents for Safe Routes group, and the current chair of Parents for Safe Routes is working with both counties to try to establish demand and find the wherewithal to build a traffic garden, which is kind of a cool, it's sort of like if you take like Fairyland or Disney or something, it's like a little like mini town for kids to go and practice biking and walking around and scootering and driving little cars around. Like imagine something from like Gilroy Gardens or something that's just like child-sized and interesting. And it's kind of one of those crazy projects that you listen to it and you think immediately, this will never work. Let me tell you the 15 reasons why it's not going to happen. But it's kind of cool that she's got people talking about it. And so if anybody's interested in that, we can follow up offline. So pie in the sky idea, but actually pretty cool if it could work out. So I think the idea is that like school children would be able to take field trips to this and work on their bike and ped, and I think maybe even driving mini cars type skills of like signaling and stopping and stuff like that.
Cool. Neat. Okay, great. Moving on to the Transportation Master Plan Implementation Subcommittee, which has not met, but its mission seems relevant to the Capital Improvement Plan, which is going to be coming forward shortly. So I would anticipate that it would meet in that context. And lastly, any updates from the Zero Emission Subcommittee? So,
no emissions to report.
We're just going to keep reusing that joke every week.
All right. Any comments on the Norway Super Bowl commercial?
That's pretty funny.
Have you
I
have you
didn't-
seen the
I didn't get
responses?
it.
Have you
No.
seen the responses that that Audi in Norway has put out in counteracting them? Just go on YouTube and look them up. They're hilarious.
All right, cool. And for anybody who's even more pop culture illiterate than me, this was a GM ad for promoting their electric car initiative, and in classic US orientation towards the rest of the world, was basically making fun of Norway and being annoyed that Norway was ahead of the United States in electric cars. So
I just found it more humorous that was more energy that GM has put into electric cars than they've actually put into electric cars. Was that ad campaign?
Burn.
Thanks for nothing, GM.
all right.
They'll get around to it. I think
Yeah.
the real question is, did anybody see Brady throw the Lombardi trophy from one boat to another during the Super Bowl parade?
Oh my God.
He actually threw it from one boat to another, and it was a good 15-foot throw. But I guess if there's anybody who can make a toss like that, it's him.
Okay, so electric cars and football stars. I think that is a good update. Do we have? Okay, I guess that's the committees and subcommittee reports. Do we have any public comments on any of the committees or subcommittees? I am not seeing any. So with that, I would like to move to adjourn the meeting to our next meeting on the second Wednesday of the next month of the year. So
Thank
That'd be
you.
March. That'd be March
Thank you, everyone.
2021. It's amazing.
Bye-bye.
all right, bye.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thanks all.